we all know how good Sony G Master lenses have become, but we also know how expensive they may have gotten after Sony keep upping the price. In this video, I'm going to give you my top 3 lenses for video creators working on a budget that are not Sony G Master. I'm going to tell you why there may actually be some benefits to not picking those G Master versions, and finally why you only need 3 lenses to cover yourself for every single project. So no G Masters here, but there is still some Sony lenses, and there is also some third-party lenses too. I love primes as much as anybody out there, but we are trying to cover as much of that range as possible without breaking the bank. We are talking specifically about zoom lenses here and a 3 lens kit. You'll be surprised how much and efficiently you can cover in just 3 lenses. Let's stop wasting time and dive into lens number 1. This first lens is probably the most used lens for me personally. I actually own it in 2 different mounts so I can use it on different cameras and not just Sony. That's how much I love it. It has been refreshed and there is a Mark II version which has added some cool new features that do look great, but optically the glass inside is very similar, and those upgrades to the optics would be very hard for most people to even notice a difference. I am of course talking about the Sigma R 24-70mm f2.8 Mark I. If you choose the Mark I over the Mark II, you will save yourself $300, and if you choose the Mark I over the Sony G Master, you will save yourself $1,300, which is a massive amount of money and is almost another lens by itself. It's going to cover you for a 24mm, a 35mm and a 50mm, which are the main 3 ranges that most projects require, and you also get to go all the way up to 70 as well, which is quite a far reach, especially if your camera allows you to punch into a crop mode. For its price point to what it can actually do when it is paired with a really good full frame video camera, it's probably the best value for money out there you're going to get when you're after cinematic video. Choosing the Mark I over the Mark II and saving that $300, you will lose out on an aperture ring that is applied to the body of the lens, which is pretty useful because it is D-click, so can be used with video pretty good. And secondly, it is a little bit sharper, but it is damn close, as I mentioned before. In terms of build quality, the Mark I is dust and splash proof and has proven itself over the test of time. I've seen these things that are still going well and working perfectly fine from the day they was released. The main negative here I find is more with the 24-70mm range and its perspective, and a trap and a mistake I see so many people making, but our next lens is going to solve that just problem. This next lens, I believe, is probably the most underrated lens throughout Sony's entire lineup. I'm so surprised that other manufacturers have not come along and just blatantly copied this lens and its feature set and put it into their own ecosystem, because its set of features and the gap it fills for video creators just makes so much sense. This is a PZ lens, which stands for power zoom. For anybody who does not know, this basically moves the glass inside electronically throughout your zoom range, meaning this works pretty much exactly how AF works when it comes to focusing through your camera. I'm talking about the 16-35mm PZ G lens from Sony. This does have a declipped aperture ring on the lens, but it is not a G Master lens. I think this is mainly to do with its f4 consistent aperture and not being f2.8. It comes in at a $700 saving when choosing it over that G Master version of lens, which is again a serious amount of money. And there is features that this lens, like the PZ, that the G Master lens does not have. Pairing this with that 24-70mm Sigma lens, I think may be a better choice than even the wider G Master lens. Keeping in mind that from 24mm onwards, you do have the option to use your Sigma art lens at f2.8, meaning that the only range that you have f4 aperture at is 16-24mm, and I would argue that a lower aperture at that kind of wide range is so much less important anyways. For stuff like gimbal work, this lens is really light and small. Rigging it anywhere, this lens is absolutely ideal. Car mount shots or anything like that. Because it is a PZ lens, its zoom range is internal. The lens does not extend or change really at all in weight, meaning that you can balance it once on a gimbal zoom with your camera or even with a Bluetooth app. And you can pick what kind of 16 to 35mm you want without having to rebalance the gimbal or demount it off a car rig. You get the idea here. This thing is just stupidly convenient for video creation. It is also newer than its G Master variant, meaning that the motors inside are super quick and work amazing for AF if you're going to use that. And it is almost parfocal, which means that at 16mm it is pretty much still in focus all the way throughout its zoom range to 35mm, allowing you to use that power zoom rocker on the lens or on your camera to get real optical zooms inside of your footage. The 24-70 and this 16-35 complement each other really well. The mistake that I mentioned earlier is pretty much that people who get 24-70mm just stick with this lens, don't think they need any other lenses in either direction, but it is more about perspective. Yes, you can just move further back with your 24mm, but that is not going to give you the same perspective as an actual 16mm. So between the 16-35 and the 24-70, there is only one more piece of the puzzle missing to complete this jigsaw. So this third and final lens is the newest lens of all the three lenses we're looking at today. It really makes this holy trio of lenses possible for us video creators, as there was kind of this gap in the market since we moved to mirrorless cameras where we needed something that is reasonably priced, great build quality and optically still great. And luckily for us, we now have it. So with the other two lenses, we are covered from 16 all the way to 70mm, meaning our wide and medium range is covered, and we need to go past the 70mm onwards. Now this, for anyone that does not know, is normally the most expensive range that you can purchase a lens in. So this is a consistent aperture of f2.8, image stabilization, declicked aperturing, amazing build quality, optically great, and brand new blazing fast AF motors. And all this without costing double of what the camera body itself costs, which would normally happen in this focal range. This gem of a lens is of course the Sigma 70 to 200mm sports DG lens. We have waited so long for Sigma to bring us a mirrorless full frame version of this lens, and it is finally here. And after getting my hands on it and running it on different projects, it definitely does not disappoint. This has easily got the best build quality of any Sigma lens I have personally tested, and feels like it belongs up there with the build quality of the GM lenses. It is even really sharp and keeps good contrast all the way up at 200mm, which is normally where the older 70 to 200s fail, as they get a bit washed out and soft. We can save a crazy $1,300 when choosing this Sigma over the GM 70 to 200 Mark II, which we could put towards prime lenses or any kind of niche lenses when building out our lens kit even further. There is an honourable mention that is worth talking about in this kind of range though, and that is the Tamron 70 to 180mm f2.8 image stabilized. This lens is even better value, saving you another $200, maybe $300 over the Sigma one. If maybe you are someone who definitely knows you are very rarely going to use this tele lens on the end, then maybe the Tamron may be the right lens for you. The Sigma though for me is the best middle ground. With it being so new, you get those new linear AF motors, and you also get their new OS2 optical image stabilization that is really good. It's dust and waterproof, and it also has 2 custom buttons, 6 switches in total on the body, which means you can control pretty much everything you need to directly from the lens. It has this little like bulge or swell on the end of the focus ring, which is quite useful for helping you know which one is the zoom range, which one is the focus range, so you do not get confused. One of the negatives could be that Sony don't allow you to use focus breathing with third-party lenses on their cameras. That is reserved for GM lenses and Sony lenses in general. But with the new Sigma 70 to 200mm, the focus breathing is really well controlled, so I don't think that warrants the extra $1,300. For anyone who is like a video first creator or does video creation professionally, I always recommend that these are the 3 lenses that you should build out as your foundation. You can always get those nice sexy prime lenses with the low apertures on top of this and just keep building as coverage should always be first priority. And with choosing these 3 lenses, you can easily save yourself enough money to get to those prime lenses quicker. And what's even better value is 15 years worth of filmmaking advice in 12 minutes right here.